Okay, let's go ahead and set this up so that we can have a group of trees or what's called a collection, and it will randomly place different trees from that collection. Let's go ahead and switch back from weight paint to object mode, and let's temporarily change the geometry nodes to the asset browser by clicking this little drop down menu. Switch to the asset browser, and you should see your trees in this. And I'm going to switch to the documents folder so I don't have quite as much. So here are my trees. You can also see that our geometry node setups are being shown here. And I have an extra one where I've been working on this. And I have another file saved. So you shouldn't have all three of those. So I'm just going to drag each of these trees into the scene. And then, I'm just going to line them up here to the right so it's a little more organized and easy for you to see on your screen as I'm working. All right, so, that tree is laying on its side somehow. Let's see if the rotation values, what am I hitting? Wrong button. So let's change the rotation of that tree. There we go. I don't really know what happened. So let's grab that. I don't know what I did. Well, there we go. That's fine. So before we group these together, we want to scale them so they're roughly the size we would like compared to our pine tree. So I'm just going to select them all, hit S to scale, and then move them a little closer, zoom in so I can see what I'm doing here, make them a little bit smaller. And I am keeping in mind that it will randomly make some bigger or smaller, so I feel pretty comfortable with this. So I have all the trees. I have scaled them. I am going to hit Control A to apply the scale. And now that I have them all selected, I have the scale the way I want, I've applied the scale, we're going to press the letter M as in move. So move to a collection. We're going to create a collection by hitting New Collection, and we'll just name this one Trees, or name it whatever you want, and hit Create. And you'll notice that in the outline, we have the collection, and by default, everything is in the collection. But when we make a new collection, we can see we have a collection called Trees, and you can see all the things that are in that collection. So we now need to go back to the geometry nodes. So clicking this little drop down menu, I'm going to switch from asset browser to geometry nodes. And I need to select the plane so that I can work with this. So let's do the density one first. So I'm going to switch over to density, and I'm going to make a copy. I'm going to name this collection scatter using density. And then I will delete that little 0.001. And last, we'll right click and mark this as an asset. And you can see that the library books are there and turn blue. So to set this up so we can use a collection, we're going to look at the scatter settings. Once again, if we just start working on this, it's going to affect the other scatter setting in our object scatter using density. So once again, there's not a paper icon to duplicate. We just click this number and it will make a new instance of this. And once again, we don't have to change these settings. We'll leave that as it is. And with that selected, we'll hit Tab so that we can look at the settings for this node. So to fix this, so it uses our collection, we're going to delete the object info. We'll hit Shift A and search for collection info. And we're going to put that node there in its place. So we're going to be using the instance of our collection for the instance that'll be scattered. We'll go ahead and pick our trees collection so we can see that it's working. And you'll notice that our trees are all over the place and they're not fitting on the plane, excuse me, like they should. So we need to do a couple things to fix that. We're going to click Separate Children, and reset children. And then last, you'll notice that all of the trees are kind of clumped together. So we want it to pick just one instance of one tree for each spot. And this should spread them out in the way that you would imagine. So now that we have that set up, the only thing we need to change, or the only thing we would like to have access to change, is which group or collection we're working with. So I'm going to take where it says trees, take this input and connect it to the group input, and that will show collection. So let's take a second and clean this up. We can no longer pick the object scatter, pick the object to scatter. I didn't type that right, my bad. We're going to change this, just reword it collection to scatter, or once again, name it what you want, whatever makes sense to you. I'll just give you an example. I don't think we really need anything else, and we don't have to change anything else. So we're going to hit Tab to go back to the overall node settings. And we're going to take the collection, plug it in here at the bottom. Now, you might be wondering, why don't we just plug it in to the empty slot we had? If you do that, you get an error message. I'm not sure why it's set up that it can't just override and do a new value, but you get that most of the time if you try to plug into an old one. So once again, the collection should be connected here at the bottom. Let's clean up our settings a little bit. So we're going to delete, pick the object to scatter, and then I'm just going to scroll down and take the collection to scatter and move that closer to the top. So that way, let's go up a little higher with it. There we go. So I can pick the collection I want to scatter, and then I can change all the settings like before. I can have more, I can have fewer, I can change the overall scale if I like. So you have complete control over all those settings. Now, let's go ahead and just set up the weight paint for our collection. So we're going to click on this and switch to our object scatter using weight paint. And we're going to rename this to collection scatter using weight paint. Oh, no, we're not going to change the name. I forgot to make a copy. So I have object scatter using weight paint, and I got a little ahead of myself. We need to make a copy first. Once we have a copy, then we can change the name to collection scatter using weight paint, and I'll clean up this .000. Then I want to right click and make this an asset. So once again, we're going to go to the scatter settings. We need to make a copy of this, or otherwise we'll change the settings somewhere else. So now we have a copy. We don't really have to worry about changing the name. We'll select, hit Tab to go into edit mode, and we're looking for the object info. We're going to delete that. We'll hit Shift A and search for collection info. Let's go ahead and put our tree group, our tree collection, and we're going to instance into instance. We're going to pick an instance, and we are going to separate children and reset children. Now, you might be wondering why we don't see the trees, and that's because if you look in the vertex group, we don't have a vertex group to work with. So for the time being, we'll just use the pine trees that we created earlier, just to make sure it works okay. So now we can see that the trees are showing up. Now that we know it's working okay, the only thing that we need to have access to is which collection we are working with. So I'm pulling out this input from where I have trees, plugging that into the bottom. Next, we'll clean this up. We're going to delete, pick the object scatter. We're going to change this collection to scatter. And once again, you can name these how you want. And that's the only thing we need to do there. We'll hit Tab, go back out to the main node settings, and we're going to take the collection and plug that into the bottom. And last, we're going to delete the, pick the object that we want to scatter, hit the minus to delete that. And then I want to take the collection and just left click and drag that up closer to the top to make this a little easier. And that should give us the settings that will allow us to pick a collection. So when you're finished, you should have 4 different ones: collection scatter using density, collection scatter using weight paint, object scatter using density, and object scatter using weight paint. And each of them should have the little library books next to it. So go ahead and save this. Make sure you save it in the folder that you're using for your asset library, so that way you have access to these in the future if you need them.